Hello and good day everyone. My name is Jaya and I thank you for tuning in here on my channel, The Jade Rat. Today we're going to be doing a time lapse in oil paints of mushrooms. These mushrooms are of the name Amanita muscaria, also known as fly agaric or fly Amanita. And this image was taken from an open source image website called Pexels, Pexels.com, and they provide a whole bunch of open source images that you can use for reference. Here you can see I'm putting a first layer of linseed oil onto a placemat, and this placemat has been gessoed a couple of times really thinly to get a nice even coat, and there's a layer of linseed oil applied on top of that. We're starting to form an initial sketch using the colours to block in firstly the sky and then the rounded shapes of the mushrooms themselves. Now we're going through and doing the basic colours for the mushrooms and the sloping effect of the ground. Just simply blocking in darker shapes such as the foliage on the floor, as well as the trees in the background and the basic shape and colours in the sky. It's very loose at the moment and you're just sort of working through to get the shapes and the form of the image together. The reference image originally had a car on the right side of the reference photo, and that was taken out to keep the focus more on the mushrooms themselves. As you can see, I'm painting in the sky, and because of the early layers of linseed oil applied onto the board, the paint glides really smoothly on top of the surface. This allows for easy blending, and unlike other oil paints where you would start with a thinner layer of oil paint watered down with the turpentine, the linseed oil prevents the board from drying out too quickly and eventually allowing for lots of layers of colour to be applied and providing a smooth transition between them. Now we're going in with some of the darker shadows of the mushroom, and this actually won't be the final shadow of the mushroom. This will be reiterated a couple of times as we go through. That actual painting itself took somewhere between 3 to 4 hours to complete in real time, and this video has been sped up about 10 times. The painting is done on an MDF board, which is medium density fibre board, purchased from a hardware store, and it is in the placemat size, which is about 29 centimeters in width and 21 centimeters in height. And once again, we're going over some of the areas of the sky with another layer of colour. Now these will be done a couple of times, mainly because the linseed oil thins out the oil paint quite a bit. Working on the stems now, we're moving through with the darker shapes first, and we're going to carve out the shape of the stem from the background. Colours like yellow, ochre, white, titanium white, and a little bit of green help to form this coloration, this sort of mushroomy colour. The stems at the back, further back the mushrooms, they will have a darker colour as they are further away and are therefore more dull. There's a slight reddish tinge being added onto the stems now, and that's to accommodate that sort of reflective surface that the top of the mushrooms will have onto the stems themselves. Now you can see a dramatic colour change here, and this is actually due to the fact that this particular portion was filmed at night time in artificial lighting. So the lighting, while previously was in natural light, has changed to an artificial light with a slightly more yellow-orange tone to it. Now we're going in again into the underside of that main mushroom to define where the creases of the mushroom are, as well as the highlights. Now we're working in the highlights on the underside once again, and sort of strengthening the shadows in each of the shapes as you can see them there. Now we're coming back to the foliage on the ground, and we're working in just some sort of broad, longer strokes that would look like grass. The foliage has orange parts in it to accommodate the leaves that are dried. And now we're going back into the tops of the mushrooms and really solidifying the colour. As you can see on the right side, the mushrooms are a little bit more transparent and they have a bit of a grainy texture, a bit of rougher texture. On the left side there, the mushroom has gone over with a thicker layer of paint and is now looking to be a bit more solid and smoother. The gradient there is softer, and titanium white is typically used as a way to blend the colours together. First I go in with the darkest parts and slowly I lighten up, adding more and more red into the mixture, and then finally highlighting with that white again. We're going back into the trees now to add a little bit of warmth into the trees in the background. And once again, sort of strengthening those colours there, making it easier to see the colours not as scratchy details but more as solid shapes. The cloud pattern at the back is being redone with more white added into it and a little bit of grey as well. But that grey is actually from a mixture on the palette, so any combination of a little bit of yellow, a little bit of green, a little bit of red, that sort of murkies down that white. I find that toning down these colours are a great way to get a bit more of a natural colour into it, as opposed to that artificial tube style straight out of the bottle paint colour that you would get normally. Now we're going in with the little dots on the mushrooms. And once again we're working from a darker colour and slowly we'll lighten it up as we go. So here we're going in through the second layer, adding some white highlights. And once again, we are solidifying the colours in the background. The original reference picture followed the rule of thirds, and that the horizon line was just below halfway point, somewhere between halfway and the third portion of the page. Here I've tried to replicate that, but it will go through some changes. Coming in with a thinner brush now, working in some of the finer details of the mushroom, just like the little fronds that come up underneath the mushroom itself, as well as more of that grassy foliage that the mushrooms are growing out of. Here we're sort of adding a little bit of yellow into the stems. As we darkened them and added red, they sort of went away from their original coloration, and now we're restoring that with a little bit of yellow and titanium white. In a similar way, the tops of the mushrooms were slightly too purple in colour. They had a bit of a cooler undertone, and I really wanted to get that bright mushroom top that you typically see in the images, and that was done by adding a little bit of yellow to the red to make a sort of orangey highlight, and then going in at the centre of the mushroom and working my way out with a darker colour. Now we're adding in the shadows for the little spots on the mushroom itself, and these little bumps actually lift up out of the mushroom cap and have an interesting texture that was really fun to paint. As we continue to paint the foliage, you'll notice that the edges of the mushroom stems, they tend to get a bit blurry, so I go back and refine those shapes so it's clear which ones are in the foreground and which ones are part of the environment. Well, as we're coming to an end, I'd really like to thank all of you for watching today. It's my first video and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you'd like to see more, please follow me on Instagram at jaderatart, separated by underscores, as well as here on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and check out my blog website at thejaderat.com, and all of this will be linked below for you to access. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.